The 1960s were a transformative decade for Black women, and their daily fashion choices would leave today's generation speechless. From foundation garments to hairstyling rituals, these looks defined elegance. Here are 20 things from the 1960s that Black women who remember this era will never forget. Wearing girdles and foundation garments every single day was not optional for Black women in the 1960s. These tight, constricting undergarments were considered essential to achieving the smooth silhouette that fashion demanded. Whether heading to work, church, or the grocery store, no respectable woman would dream of leaving the house without her girdle firmly in place. The garments came in various styles, from panty girdles to full corsets with boning, and they required significant effort to pull on each morning. Young women learned from their mothers that a proper foundation was the first step to getting dressed. The discomfort was simply accepted as the price of looking put together. For Black women who worked long hours on their feet or endured summer heat without air conditioning, wearing a girdle all day was a test of endurance. Today's generation, accustomed to stretchy leggings and comfortable fabrics, would find the idea of squeezing into these restrictive garments utterly shocking. Getting a press and curl with a hot comb heated on the stove was a weekly ritual that defined Black beauty standards in the 1960s. Before the natural hair movement took hold, straightened hair was considered essential for looking presentable in both professional and social settings. Mothers and grandmothers would heat metal combs directly on gas burners or electric coils until they were hot enough to transform tightly coiled hair into smooth, flowing strands. The smell of Blue Magic or Dixie Peach hair grease mixing with the heat of the comb filled kitchens across Black America. Girls learned to sit perfectly still because a burn from that comb on the ear or neck was no joke, and it left marks that lasted for days. The process could take hours depending on the thickness of the hair, and the results would only last until humidity or sweat undid all that work. For many people today, especially natural hair enthusiasts who celebrate texture and curl patterns, the idea of applying intense heat weekly would seem like unnecessary damage. Wearing full slips and half slips under every dress and skirt was an absolute requirement for Black women in the 1960s. No woman would consider her outfit complete without this smooth layer underneath, preventing her dress from clinging or becoming see-through in certain light. Full slips covered from the bust down to the knees, while half slips started at the waist. These undergarments came in white, black, and nude colors to match whatever was being worn on top. Mothers would inspect their daughters before they left the house, checking to make sure the slip was properly in place and not showing beneath the hemline. The swishing sound of a slip against nylon stockings became a familiar part of how women moved through spaces. Department stores had entire sections dedicated to slips in various lengths and fabrics, from everyday cotton to elegant lace-trimmed versions for special occasions. For modern women who wear body-hugging dresses with nothing underneath but underwear, the mandatory slip would seem like an unnecessary extra layer. Putting on stockings with a garter belt every morning was a standard routine before pantyhose became widely available. Black women kept their nylon stockings in place with garter belts attached to tabs at the top of each stocking. The process involved carefully rolling stockings up each leg without snagging them with a fingernail, then clipping the garter tabs securely. A run in your stocking was a minor emergency that could ruin your entire look for the day. Women carried extra pairs in their purses just in case, and clear nail polish stopped runs from spreading. The stockings came in various shades, and Black women often searched harder to find colors that complemented their skin tones. Sitting down required careful attention to ensure garter tabs did not show beneath your skirt. When pantyhose finally arrived, they were considered revolutionary for their convenience. Modern women who throw on bare legs or quick leggings cannot imagine the daily ritual hosiery once required. Wearing elaborately decorated church hats every Sunday was a tradition. Black women took extremely seriously in the 1960s. These were not simple accessories, but statement pieces announcing a woman's style and status to the entire congregation. Hats came in every color imaginable, adorned with feathers, flowers, ribbons, bows, netting, and sometimes even fruit. Women coordinated their hats with suits and dresses, and some had collections filling entire closet shelves. The best seats in church were sometimes chosen based on hat height, with women careful not to block views of those sitting behind them. Milliners in Black communities built thriving businesses creating custom pieces for discerning clients. Young girls watched their mothers and grandmothers prepare for Sunday services, learning that the hat was the finishing touch completing any church outfit. For today's generation, who might skip headwear entirely, the idea of investing significant money and attention on church hats would seem extravagant. Wearing white gloves for church, funerals, weddings, and other formal occasions was expected of every proper Black woman in the 1960s. These gloves were not just fashion accessories, they were symbols of refinement and respectability. Gloves came in wrist length for daytime events and longer opera-length versions for evening affairs. Keeping them clean was a constant concern because any smudge or stain showed immediately against the white fabric. Women learned the proper etiquette about when to remove gloves and when to keep them on. For example, they would take them off to eat but keep them on to shake hands at church. Mothers taught their daughters that a lady's hands should be covered when entering a house of worship. The gloves were carefully washed and stored flat to prevent creasing. Some women kept multiple pairs to rotate throughout the week, making sure they always had a fresh pair ready. For modern women who barely accessorize beyond earrings and perhaps a watch, the requirement to wear gloves in warm weather would seem uncomfortable and old-fashioned. Bullet bras creating cone-shaped silhouettes were the standard foundation garment for Black women in the early 1960s. These structured bras with circular stitching and stiff construction push the bust into an exaggerated shape that looks almost comical by today's standards. The pointed profile was considered the height of femininity, and sweaters and dresses were designed to showcase this shape. Women would not dream of wearing a soft, natural-looking bra for everyday wear. The construction was rigid and often uncomfortable, with underwires and heavy padding creating the desired effect. Young women were fitted for their first bullet bras as a rite of passage into womanhood. The style persisted well into the decade before softer, more natural shapes began taking over. Department store lingerie sections displayed these structured garments prominently. For today's women who prefer wireless bras, bralettes, or no bras at all, the engineered architecture of a bullet bra would seem like something from another planet. Going out in public wearing hair rollers covered by a headscarf was completely acceptable for Black women in the 1960s. Women would set their hair in rollers at night or in the morning and keep them in for hours while running errands, visiting neighbors, or going to the corner store. The colorful headscarves tied over rollers became their own fashion statement, with women choosing patterns that coordinated with their outfits. This was especially common on Saturdays, when women prepared their hair for Sunday church services. No one thought twice about seeing a woman with her head full of pink foam rollers covered by a silk scarf while shopping for groceries. The rollers came in various sizes, creating different curl patterns from tight ringlets to loose waves. Women knew exactly how long to leave them in and how to style the results for maximum volume. For modern women who would feel embarrassed with a single hair out of place, the casual acceptance of public roller wearing would seem like a completely different social norm. Matching your handbag to your shoes was an unbreakable rule of fashion that Black women followed religiously in the 1960s. It was not a suggestion, but an absolute requirement for looking properly put together. Women invested in multiple pairs of shoes with coordinating purses in black, navy, brown, and white, building collections that allowed them to match any outfit. The purses were structured, with clasps and handles, nothing like the slouchy crossbody bags popular today. Wearing brown shoes with a black purse was considered a fashion disaster, and it drew silent judgment. The rule extended to belts as well, creating head-to-toe coordination that required careful planning. Women saved up to buy quality leather pieces that lasted for years. The tradition came from earlier generations who believed attention to these details separated the refined from the careless. For today's women who mix metals, carry whatever bag is convenient, and wear white after Labor Day, this rigid matching rule would feel impossibly restrictive. Wearing crinolines and petticoats under full skirts was essential for achieving the popular silhouettes of the early 1960s. These stiff, often itchy underlayers made skirts stand out in full bell shapes that fashion demanded. Black women would layer multiple petticoats for maximum volume at church anniversaries, weddings, and Easter Sunday. The crinolines were made from stiff nylon netting that rustled with every movement. Sitting down required careful arrangement to avoid the whole structure popping up embarrassingly. The petticoats generated significant heat, making summer events particularly challenging. Young girls wore them for school photos and church programs, learning early that beauty required suffering. Mothers handed down their best crinolines to daughters, treating them as valuable possessions. The layers made narrow doorways and car seats tricky to navigate. For modern women who prefer sleek, body-conscious silhouettes, wearing scratchy netting would seem like punishment rather than fashion. Wearing wigs and hair pieces as everyday fashion accessories was common for Black women in the 1960s. Before weaves became sophisticated, women owned multiple wigs in different styles and colors, swapping them depending on the occasion. A woman might wear a sleek bob for work, a curly style for dates, and something elaborate for church. The wig sat on styrofoam heads on bedroom dressers, lined up waiting to be chosen. Some wigs were made from human hair and cost significant money, while others were synthetic. Women learned to secure their natural hair underneath with bobby pins and stocking caps. The wigs required maintenance and styling just like real hair, and wig shops in Black neighborhoods did steady business. Wearing a wig was not considered fake or embarrassing, but simply another tool for looking your best. For modern women who prize their natural hair and view wigs differently, the casual, everyday wig wearing of the 1960s would seem like living in constant costume. Cat eye glasses were not just vision correction, they were a major fashion statement for Black women in the 1960s. These dramatically upswept frames with pointed corners came in every color imaginable, from classic black to bright red and leopard print. Women who did not need glasses wore them with plain lenses just for style. The cat eye shape was considered sophisticated, making any woman look like a movie star from Hollywood's golden age. Frames were embellished with rhinestones and decorative metalwork that caught the light with every head turn. Women coordinated glasses with outfits, sometimes owning multiple pairs for different looks. The style was everywhere, from secretaries in offices to teachers in classrooms to church mothers in front pews. Optician shops displayed rows of cat-eye frames, knowing their popularity would drive sales. For today's generation wearing minimalist round frames or invisible contacts, the bold drama of cat-eye glasses would seem almost theatrical. Housecoats and dusters worn throughout the day were standard at-home attire for Black women in the 1960s. These lightweight button-front dresses were the first thing women put on in the morning and the last thing they took off at night. Made from cotton or polyester in colorful prints, housecoats allowed women to move comfortably while cooking, cleaning, and caring for children. Wearing a housecoat did not mean a woman was being lazy. It meant she was taking care of business at home. Neighbors would visit each other in their housecoats without embarrassment, and some women would run quick errands to the corner store without changing. The snaps or buttons down the front made getting dressed easy. Women often had multiple housecoats in rotation, switching them out as they wore out. For today, S generation living in athleisure and yoga pants, the formal structure of a housecoat with its buttons and collar would seem unnecessarily fussy for lounging at home. Dashikis and African-inspired prints emerged as powerful fashion statements for Black women in the late 1960s. As the Black Power movement gained momentum, many women rejected European fashion and embraced clothing that connected them to African heritage. Dashikis were loose-fitting, brightly colored tunics with bold patterns, making a statement without saying a word. The garments were often paired with head wraps in matching fabrics, creating looks that were both beautiful and politically meaningful. Wearing African prints was an act of pride and resistance, a visual declaration that Black was beautiful. Kente cloth and other traditional African textiles became prized possessions, worn for special occasions and cultural celebrations. The style spread from activists and artists to everyday women who wanted to express identity through fashion. For Black women today, who have always had access to African-inspired fashion, the radical nature of these choices in the 1960s might be difficult to appreciate. Pillbox hats were the height of sophistication for Black women in the early 1960s, inspired by Jackie Kennedy's iconic style. These small, brimless hats sat flat on top of the head and required bobby pins or hat pins to stay in place. The style was elegant and ladylike, perfect for church services, luncheons, and formal daytime events. Black women embraced the pillbox hat and made it their own, adding personal touches like veils, flowers, and decorative pins. The hats came in every color to match suits and dresses, and women often had them custom made by local milliners. Wearing a pillbox hat required a certain posture and poise. Tilting your head too far could make it slide. The style looked particularly elegant with popular bouffant hairstyles. Young girls watched their mothers place these hats just so and learned that accessories required care. For modern women who rarely wear hats, the idea of carefully balancing a pillbox would seem impractical. Go-go boots became a symbol of youthful rebellion and modern fashion for Black women in the mid to late 1960s. These knee-high or calf-length boots, often in white patent leather, represented a dramatic departure from sensible pumps of earlier years. Young women wore them with miniskirts and shift dresses, embracing a look that was bold, fun, and completely different from their mother's styles. The boots were flat or had low block heels, making them practical for dancing at clubs where go-go dancing was the rage. White boots were most popular, but they also came in black, silver, and bright colors. The style was influenced by MOD fashion from London and dance shows featuring young women in matching boot outfits. For Black women, go-go boots represented participation in a youthful cultural moment crossing racial lines. The boots required effort to pull on and zip up, but made any outfit instantly stylish. For today's generation, the specific cultural meaning of go-go boots has faded. Shift dresses with their straight, simple lines became a revolutionary silhouette for Black women in the 1960s. These knee-length dresses hung loosely from the shoulders without emphasizing the waist, a dramatic change from the fitted styles of the previous decade. The simplicity of the shift made it versatile for work, church, or social events depending on fabric and accessories. Black women embraced this style because it was comfortable, easy to sew at home, and elegant on all body types. The dresses came in solid colors, bold geometric prints, and every pattern imaginable. A shift could be dressed up with pearls and heels or kept casual with flats. The style worked particularly well as shorter hemlines became acceptable as the decade progressed. Women who made their own clothes appreciated simple pattern pieces that even beginning sewers could master. For modern women accustomed to bodycon dresses and figure-hugging silhouettes, the relaxed elegance of a shift might seem shapeless. Wearing proper foundation makeup that actually matched black skin tones was nearly impossible for most women in the 1960s. Mainstream cosmetics companies did not cater to darker complexions, leaving many black women to mix their own shades or go without. The products that were available often looked ashy, orange, or gray on black skin, and they never looked quite right. Women shared tips about which brands worked best, passing knowledge through beauty salons and at kitchen tables. Some used face powder without foundation, while others experimented with theatrical makeup that offered more shade options. The frustration of finding nothing that worked in department stores was a shared experience. When Florrie Roberts launched her cosmetics line in 1965 specifically for black skin, it was revolutionary. Before that, women made do with whatever came closest or skipped foundation entirely. For today's black women who have countless foundation options in every shade, the makeup struggles of the 1960s would seem like shopping in a different universe. Pointed toe shoes and kitten heels were the footwear of choice for fashionable black women throughout the 1960s. These shoes featured dramatically tapered toes that came to a sharp point, sometimes so narrow that toes were squeezed together uncomfortably. Kitten heels, short and slender at about 1 to 2 inches high, offered elegance without the pain of higher stilettos. The combination of pointed toes and kitten heels created a sophisticated silhouette that lengthened the leg and looked polished. Black women wore these shoes to work, to church, and everywhere they wanted to look put together. The shoes came in patent leather, suede, and fabric, often matching handbags. Walking in pointed toe shoes required practice because the narrow toe box changed your gait. Women accepted sore feet and bunions as the price of fashionable footwear. For modern women who prefer comfort with chunky heels and round toe styles, the torture devices that passed for elegant shoes in the 1960s would seem not worth the pain. Wearing a hat pin to secure your headwear was essential knowledge that every black woman possessed in the 1960s. These long decorative pins were pushed through the hat and into the hair underneath, keeping everything in place no matter how much you moved. Hat pins often had ornate heads with pearls, jewels, glass beads, and intricate metalwork, adding another layer of decoration. Women learned from their mothers exactly how to angle the pin so it would hold securely without poking the scalp. A good hat pin could be an heirloom passed down through generations, along with the hats it secured. The pins were stored carefully in special boxes or stuck into pin cushions, ready for Sunday morning preparations. Losing a hat pin was a minor emergency, especially if it happened at church. Some women collected hat pins, appreciating the artistry of the decorative heads. For modern women who rarely wear hats that need such security, the idea of pushing a long pin through headwear may seem strange. Which of these 1960s fashion choices would shock you the most if you saw them today? Drop a comment below with your memories. Hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another trip down memory lane.